Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are diving into something truly fascinating. We're taking the incredibly dense mid-August 2026 data from the Chinese plastics market and breaking it down so we can really understand the big picture. Because right now, this entire industry is locked in a massive structural tug-of-war. We're seeing huge global forces colliding directly with the everyday realities of the factory floor, creating what we're calling the Great Polymer Stalemate. I'm super excited to guide you through this, so let's jump right in. So, all of our data today comes directly from Polymer Bazaar. If you look at the supply chain landscape out there, there's just this massive alphabet soup of plastics, right? PP, PE, PVC, PET. It can be honestly overwhelming. But what Polymer Bazaar does is distill all of that pricing, prediction, and profit data into actual actionable intelligence. They're essentially the nervous system for market participants trying to navigate all these wild fluctuations. And speaking of that nervous system, they have a totally brilliant tool for supply chain managers. You can actually get the exact data we're looking at today directly on your phone, literally instantly. If you just send China to their WhatsApp chatbot, you get access to real-time pricing, revisions, market news, forecasts, and official company price lists in under 5 seconds. It's available 24/7. So it's just an incredibly efficient way to stay on top of the exact market signals we're about to decode.
Here is how we're breaking things down today. First, we'll look at the great market stalemate, then get an update on commodity plastics, followed by the pressure on engineering polymers. After that, we'll spotlight biodegradables and wrap up with exactly what you should watch next.
Okay, Section 1, the Great Market Stalemate. Let's look at the big picture.
Just to make sure we're completely aligned on the jargon before we get into the heavy data, when we say downstream, we're talking about the actual factories, the buyers who are purchasing these raw plastics to manufacture physical goods. And when we say a market is range-bound, we basically mean prices are stuck. They're fluctuating, sure, but only between a very tight high and low limit. Essentially, factories aren't buying in bulk, so prices are totally trapped.
And that brings us to the grand narrative of August 2026. It is a massive clash of two forces. Upstream, production costs are being pushed up by rising crude oil, stable coal, and geopolitical tensions. But downstream, demand is just completely subdued. It's cautious, it's stuck in a seasonal off period, and buying is strictly need-based. It's a classic case of an immovable object meeting an unstoppable force, rising production costs fighting against extremely sluggish, wait-and-see factory demand.
Moving right along to Section 2, Commodity Plastics Update.
Let's look at polypropylene and polyethylene, or PP and PE. These are the absolute workhorses of the plastics world, and right now, they're perfectly caught in this trap. For both of them, supply is actually down because major producers are undergoing maintenance shutdowns or delaying the restart of idled units. Now, normally, you think that would drive prices way up, right? But look at the demand side. Polyethylene agricultural film is in its seasonal off period. We're seeing a very slight uptick in orders for greenhouse films, but overall, it's just not enough. The drop in supply and the weak demand are completely canceling each other out.
It's a very similar story playing out across PVC, PS, and ABS. All three of these are seeing their raw material costs rise. PVC futures opened higher, and styrene futures, which are absolutely critical for producing PS and ABS, also moved up during morning trading. But, again, because of that weak downstream demand we talked about, buyers just aren't biting. In major trading hubs like Yuyao Plastic City, traders are being forced to stay incredibly flexible. Buyers are strictly negotiating on a case-by-case, need-based basis. It is literally the definition of range-bound consolidation. All right, Section 3, engineering polymers feel pressure.
You know, we really can't look at this market without acknowledging the geopolitical realities driving the data. For specialized materials like PET and PBT, the cost chain is highly volatile right now due to international uncertainty. Take PET, for instance. U.S.-Iran tensions are driving risk-aversion buying, which props up international crude oil prices. Similarly, PBT upstream costs are being pushed higher by tensions around the Strait of Hormuz, alongside rising prices for PTA, which is a key raw material. So we're seeing how international events in the Middle East ripple directly down to the factory floor, driving up the baseline cost to produce these engineering plastics.
But it's not just global politics propping up prices. Maintenance schedules are a massive dynamic here too. For EVA, ongoing plant maintenance is tightening supply and keeping offers firm. For PC, or polycarbonate, an upcoming maintenance cycle at Wanhua Chemicals facility is keeping spot inventories low, which gives suppliers the leverage to keep the prices high, despite weak factory order books. Conversely, look at PA66. Capacity utilization is increasing there, which means there's ample supply. And because demand is weak, PA66 prices are facing a really weak and volatile trend. Plant maintenance is basically acting as an artificial dam, holding up prices against a weak tide of demand. And within these engineering polymers, we are seeing two total extremes in how sellers are handling the stalemate. On one side, we have pmma. Upstream costs for MMA are rising, so pmma producers are stubbornly raising their quotes and holding a super firm stance. The catch? Buyers are simply rejecting the high prices, leading to barely any actual transactions. Now, on the exact opposite end of the spectrum, we have POM. Here, the bearish sentiment is so heavy that traders are finally caving. They're actively offering discounts just to clear out their inventory because downstream factories are operating at such low rates. It's completely fascinating to see these two wildly different survival strategies in the exact same market.
Let's pivot a bit to Section 4, Spotlight on Biodegradable Plastics.
So the data here shifts from pricing stalemates to actual operational capacities. For polylactic acid, or PLA, the story is all about steady, massive operation. Both phases of their operational capacity are running incredibly smoothly. Phase 1 is steadily churning out 30,000 tons annually, and the massive Phase 2 facility is perfectly stable at 70,000 tons. No major disruptions reported here at all. The scale gets even more impressive when we look at PBAT production. The volume currently operating normally in this sector is honestly staggering. We're looking at one 35,000 ton per year unit running right alongside two brand new 60,000 ton per year units, all operating exactly as they should. It highlights this massive functioning baseline for the eco-friendly material market. PBS, though, it's got a few unique quirks keeping its supply super tight. Get this, an existing 25,000 ton PBAT unit actually had to be converted just to produce PBS. Meanwhile, Hexing San Juan, which is the main PBS supplier, is only operating one production line right now, and that equipment is experiencing some operational instability. Because of all this, overall inventory for PBS is strictly limited. It's a pretty sharp contrast to the massive stable volumes we just saw for PLA and PBAT. Finally, let's wrap up with Section 5, what you should watch. If you work in procurement, manufacturing, or supply chain management, this quote right here is absolutely crucial. This is the most important takeaway from August 2026. Across almost every single polymer type we discussed today, this is the prevailing mood, a cautious cash preservation strategy. Factories are simply not going to buy in bulk until they have fresh, confirmed orders in their own hands. They're basically letting the upstream producers sweat it out. Which leaves us with one massive, burning question to watch for in the coming weeks. When will that downstream demand finally break the stalemate? The traditional peak demand season is quickly approaching. Is it going to be a flood of new factory orders that finally ignites the market? Or will the weight of those geopolitical upstream costs just prove too heavy? Keep a really close eye on these market signals. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and keep learning.